this meeting to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during a regular meeting. Mrs. Petter, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Wider?
Here.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Here.
Mrs. Moore?
Here.
Mrs. Kessler? Here. Mr. Simons?
Present.
Thank you. Now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now we need either an approval or revision of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as is.
Second. It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter, please call the roll.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler? Mrs. Wider?
Yes. Thank you. And now we will have the inspirational message from Stewart Elementary School. Exceed your wildest dreams.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Wider. I'm going to call up Principal Dennis Ramsey to introduce everything. Dennis, if you come on up here, that'd be great. Dennis is in his second year at Stewart. He's done a great job. If you haven't been in Stewart Elementary School lately, you should do so. The culture there is incredible, wonderful staff, and the kids are second to none. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey.
Can we go down there?
You got the art table, I see. We'll say it's art. Yep. Good evening, and thank you for inviting us here this evening. First, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Engel and Miss Babel for all of their work and then coming here tonight. We have brought with us students from Stewart Elementary. We are here to present the inspirational message, which will give you an insight into our school theme for this year, which is based on the book Maybe, written by Kobe Yamada. We also hope that the board enjoys and hope they think of Stewart as they hang the gifts that Miss Babel's art classes have been working on. And when you're hanging these, we hope that you are thinking of the Stewart students and just how amazing and inspirational they are. So with that, let the students take it away.
Good evening. Thank you for welcoming us to your meeting. We are so lucky to be students at Stewart Elementary. We are here this evening to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered why you are here? You are the only you there has ever been or ever will be. You have so much to offer.
Your life is yours. Try as many things as you can try. See as much as you can see. What if you have talents that you haven't discovered yet?
There is something powerful about you, even magical about you. You are brave, you are strong, you are loved, you are smart, you are unique.
I think the jury. I was going to say. Is it just for board? I can scoop one down. What's that one say?
Gina just stealing.
Tonight.
We were off. Do you have the running up there?
Oh, which one?
Mrs. Whiter, as the students leave, that was incredible, and I think you saw some of the students had be brave enough to be the light shirts on in a world that we know we need a lot of people to be brave enough to be the light. So what a great inspirational message. Thank you one more time.
Yes, wow.
Love it.
I couldn't sing like that, for sure. So
Thank you.
thank you. Next is recognition of visitors. Do we have any?
We
Mrs.
do
Pettit?
not.
None.
Okay. Recognitions. Approval of resolution to proclaim October 17th, to the 21st, 2022 as National School Bus Safety Week in the Princeton City School District.
Thank you, Mrs. Wider. I'm going to have our Director of Operations, John Fricke, come up to read the proclamation, but just very quickly, we know that bus drivers are integral to every single thing we do. They're the first to see our wonderful students and the last to see our wonderful students in any given day. They do a wonderful job. Mr. Fricke?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So whereas the members of the Princeton Board of Education wish to proclaim the week of October 17th through the 21st, 2022 as National School Bus Safety Week in Princeton City School District. And whereas school bus safety is an American tradition. And whereas we are proud of the drivers who put safety first. And whereas we recognize that community knowledge and support is needed in our effort to provide safe transport of students. And whereas we know that safety depends partly on the continued education of partners, community, and students on safety needs. And whereas our nation is celebrating the week of October 17th through the 21st, 2022, is National School Bus Safety Week with the theme, one bus plus one driver equals a big impact on education. Now therefore be it resolved that the Princeton Board of Education does proclaim the week of October 17th through the 21st, 2022 is National School Bus Safety Week in the Princeton City School District, and encourages the observance of this special time by the cities and villages, as well as the parents and residents of the school district to support the safety of our children. This resolution was passed this 10th day of October in the year 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. And I might add another little note to that. The Princeton Closet happens to be in the same building as transportation. And I can tell you, if I say Joe Smith needs such and such, one of the drivers will go out and get it. They're very generous, they're very protective, they're very helpful. So, thank you again.
I move to approve the resolution. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the resolution to proclaim October 17 through 21, 2022 as National School Bus Safety Week in the Princeton City School District as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Wider?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is recognition of Grace Fields, Stewart Elementary second grade student.
Well, I have to tell you, the Stewart Elementary School, they certainly did a wonderful job today, exceed your wildest dreams. And this lovely young lady and her mom, and looks like a friend, are going to come up, and friend's mom are going to come up on stage right now to be recognized. And, you know, it's interesting because I mentioned earlier, be brave enough to be the light was on one of the young ladies' shirts. And this is going to be such a great time. Grace, honey, you could stay right there. There you go, thank you. So myself and Tricia Roddy and a few other people had this wonderful opportunity to really talk to Grace and her mom specifically about the book, Love in Every Color. And Grace and Mom, do you mind talking a little bit about this book that Grace, you wrote? Can you talk a little bit about that right in that microphone? I know Mom needed to pick you up, or there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. So we wrote a book together on transracial adoption. And what do you think the best message of the book is?
To say for yourself.
See for yourself what? Like that families can look different?
That families can look different.
And it's okay, right?
And that it's very okay. In fact, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so this all started on a family trip.
Yeah, on a car ride, right?
So Grace, you asked Mom a question. I know you can't see me. I'm right here, Grace. Sorry.
Do you remember
Grace,
the question?
you asked Mom a question, right? In the car? Do you remember what that question was?
Why does my skin look different?
And that kind of started the whole story, right? It was unbelievable. So this great book that Grace wrote and Mom helped with and illustrated. They both illustrated together. It's so incredible. A little sales plug. It's available on Amazon, a lot of other places, but we're going to recognize specifically Grace, and this is what this recognition says. It says, this certificate is presented to Grace Fields. By the way, she's 7.5 years old. Not to be confused with 7, not to be confused with 8. She's 7.5 years old.
Okay.
Grace Fields, Stewart Elementary School, 2nd grade, for writing and publishing the book Love in Every Color, presented by the Princeton School District Board of Education. So we're all going to take a picture with you. Is that okay, Grace? Thanks.
Oh, nice. I've got to get that book.
As Grace leaves the stage, Mom and Grace, can we get a signed autograph when he buys some books?
Yeah.
Can we bring them to Grace? Is that okay? Absolutely. And you'll sign them, Grace?
What?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Love in Every Color, available all over the place. Just Google it. Grace Fields.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yes, we're honored. Let's see, next is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler? Mrs. Wyder?
Yes,
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
thank you. Motion passes. Next is, moving on to district business, the approval of the September 2022 finance report. Is there any discussion or questions?
Where are we at?
4A.
So what is she asking?
Is there, if we have to make a,
Make a motion?
yes.
I move to approve the September 2022 financial report as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
There are 2 items attached to your financial report for September. I'll have the additional items as soon as we close the books for the month of September. But the first item is the ESSER funds. I can report now that ESSER 1 or CARES fund is now closed. Final reports have been submitted to ODE, and yes, they are already auditing and asking for documentation and backup. So we're well on the way of completely ending that portion of the ESSER funds. We spent 99.4% of the money. 10,000 was not requested. It is a reimbursement grant, so there is no need to refund dollars there. Next time I present this report, I'm going to take off the ESSER 1 columns and the general fund column, which we have not spent any general fund money on the pandemic for quite some time now. So we'll clean up this report a little bit. We'll be left with ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 dollars for the rest of the year. The other report attached is the credit card report that we're, of course, required to submit monthly to keep our auditors happy. And those are the two items.
Are there any questions? Okay, next is the approval of the final 2023 medical dental rates.
Shall I call the roll for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler? Yes. Mrs. Weider?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes, and I apologize. Next is the approval of final 2023 medical dental rates. Do you want to talk about that?
I will. Does someone want to motion?
I move to approve the final 2023 medical and dental rates as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded.
Very, very, very good news on our medical and dental rates for the year. I know it's a little hard to believe since I've been hearing districts with 15 and 20% increases. Our total increase on the medical plan is 5.35%. We do have to blend it across our three plans because contractually we've agreed to not blend the rates. So claims in the PPO or the high deductible health plan or the qualified high deductible plan are all based the increase on the claims that year. So they are ranging from an increase of 4.43 up to 8.06. So still very, very, very good news. Even better news on the dental plan, we received a reduction of 5% for our dental plan. Our claims are presenting low for dental, and they locked that in for 2 years. So that's very good news for the district. And Susan Weider asked me to look into the percentage of staff that take our plan, and 91.3% of our employees take our medical plan.
What was the number?
91.3.
Okay.
So significant number. Again, as I've always said, we have great benefits and at a very affordable price. So it's a good thing that for our employees to take advantage of that. And those rates are effective January 1.
Does the district have somewhat of a healthy lifestyle savings account?
We
For
do
employees.
not have a health savings account per se separate. People who participate in the high deductible health plan get the HSA match for those funds, but the PPO and the qualified do not. They can participate in flexible spending accounts, which
That's what
they
I-
can put pre-tax dollars in there.
Is there a maximum for the match?
It's whatever the district does not match flex spending,
But I mean.
but
the
there's
other-
a federal, we go up to the federal limit.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Kessler? Yes. Mrs. Weider?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next is approval of transfers and advances.
I move that we accept the approval of transfers and advances as listed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
This is an annual item we do as soon as we close out our tournament funds for the year. So we have had an incredible amount of tournaments, people in the district over the last year, and we will shut that out now that all the bills are paid. It is a transfer in the amount of $48,295, and that goes into our athletic fund.
Any questions? Mrs. Pettit?
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is approval of memorandums of understanding for Title I pooling.
I move that we approve the memorandums of understanding for Title I pooling as listed.
Second. Mrs. Petter?
Any discussion?
Yes, I just wanted
I
to say,
thought she might want to explain it, just to be sure. Go
Well,
ahead.
Tom's going to explain.
yeah, well, Chris, do you want to start? I just had a couple
Yeah.
comments on it.
I really don't have anything
Okay.
on that, Tom.
So basically what this is, it simplifies our life in terms of what a lot of people don't understand is that private schools actually are funded by state tax dollars and local tax dollars. So I wanted to hit on that just a little bit. Again, you know, we've talked specifically about school choice, and we're not opposed to school choice. We just feel the best choice is Princeton, as I'm sure every other public school district would feel as well. But one of the things that happens is there's flow through dollars. And what that means is, so there's a child who resides in Princeton but chooses to go someplace else that would qualify for Title I dollars. That money comes to us, and then ultimately we work with the school to determine how they're going to use the money, and then there's a whole bunch of hoop jumping, all that, right, Mr. Sendre? Mr. Sendre, who's our Director of Strategic Analytics, is so excited about this because there's an incredible amount of work that goes into us helping other schools spend their money. And it's so long, it's crazy. We wish that every single person, every single district actually did the pooling, or every school, excuse me. Hopefully we'll get there at some point. We're not there yet. We still have several others that we're working with. Mr. Sender, again, has done a very good job. But I wanted to say this, that if you were to poll our community, any community, and ask them, do you think that there's any tax dollars that are used to pay for private education? I think the vast majority of people would say no, but that's not true. So all the busing that happens, so we have some great partners. St. Mike's is in Sharonville. We have others that are, you know, really good schools. People choose those for a variety of reasons. But those kids get picked up by us. Those are dollars that we spend, and that bill is directly to us as taxpayers don't know, but those are actually spent on private school to buses. There's also equipment. There's also materials. There's other things too that are used by there are other tax dollars that are used for materials, for on top of busing materials, textbooks, and so forth. So, for instance, every private school around us gets more money than Princeton does from the state of Ohio. Now, people don't think how could that possibly be accurate, but it is. Actually, this year may be the very first year, right, Chris? Maybe the first year that we just barely went above what the state share is for private or parochial school students. Now, the other thing, too, which is interesting, when you look at the amount that's spent per pupil on transportation, so there's one or two students that actually would get bused to go to a private or parochial school within our area. We may have to hire just one or two people, bus drivers, van drivers, so forth, to take those one or two kids. So when you look at that, 2 hours, right, Mr. Fricky, about 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at pickup, that's 4 hours a day. And if you just think conceptually, and I'm just going to kind of spitball some numbers out, we just say about $30 to $40 an hour, and you do the math, and you multiply that by 180 days, it's really a significant amount of money that is spent. Now, again, those are the rules, no big deal, it's okay. Again, we believe in school choice, we just feel the best choice is Princeton. But, you know, when we walked around a couple years ago and we talked to some taxpayers to support a levy, that was one of the things that I heard over and over and over again. My kids go to ABC school, my tax dollars not even used on my kids, and that the amount of times I shared this story, you would think that I would have done a better job talking tonight about it because I've talked so much about it during the levy campaign. But the reality is we're going to see more and more state dollars being used for vouchers, being used for private and parochial schools. This is something that we know is going to happen. And I just want to, I'll be talking a lot about this fact, and I will come up with specific numbers on how much money we spend to transport kids. In fact, Mr. Frick and I have been working on a spreadsheet, and it has all delineated the number of students we transport to all of our schools here, as well as a couple of the schools outside the district, and then how many bus riders on that bus and the basic cost for that. So we'll have that, and we'll have everything else. Now, again, the reason why this is a pertinent conversation about Title I, because we're talking about pooling Title I dollars outside of what we provide in Princeton. Thank you.
Mr. Burden, can you explain what Title I is for those of us that don't have the in-depth knowledge?
Yes, so Title I was enacted several years ago to help those school districts provide additional opportunities and resources for those kids that are economically disadvantaged. So the federal government says, and state government, they all know that it may take more money to help those students, whether it's providing equitable opportunities or whether it's providing additional support and so forth. But what we'll do is, let's do, Mary, is Dr. Phillips out there? Oh, there you go. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. How can I miss you with that beautiful red jacket? Let's prepare all the Title I, all the funds and what that means, and Mr. Sendre, you as well. We'll do that at a board workshop. Because there's Title I, there's Title IIA, and the list goes on. And so when we approve these things, it would be important to know exactly all of that. So Title IIA, for instance, is professional development, that you get dollars specifically from the federal government.
So this isn't recent, it's been since 1965, correct?
I'm sorry?
Title I's been in effect since 1965, 57 years, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're not.
So this isn't something new that somebody came up with. It was
Pooling is new.
No, not pooling, the actual
pooling.
act itself.
No, Title I has been in existence for a long time. And it shows also in here the different schools and the amount that they would get, and pooling that really helps significantly, again, with our time and effort, because we would spend a lot of time and effort to help districts spend money, and we're paying our employee to spend time to help other schools spend money. And Tanya, I know when she first heard about this concept, Tanya West-Wright, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction Assessment, when she heard this, she was like, why couldn't that have happened when I was in charge of Title I-A, or Title I, excuse me. So this is something that'll be good, and hopefully everybody will jump on board. Mr. Senator, how many other schools are we looking for to jump on or could have jumped on?
Just a couple at this point.
Just a couple more, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mrs. Petter?
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Weider?
Yes. Motion passes. Next is academic update.
Yes, as Mrs. Stiles walks up here, who's our Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning, this presentation is Princeton City School District Future Pathways. Now, we're going to talk about one pathway tonight, but it's really, and we've talked about this so much, that like a second grader said to me the other day about they're not sure if they're going to go directly into work, Mr. Burton, or they're going to serve the country, Mr. Burton, or they're going to go to school right after high school, Mr. Burton. It was awesome conversation. So as Ms. Stiles unpacks this, understand that there's going to be 2 other presentations that we're going to make, because this really is one of the Princeton advantages. When you look specifically at what we've done in terms of providing opportunities for students to learn about the military, to learn about workforce options, and specifically we're in education, but the reality is we want to help kids match their strengths with their interests and pick whichever pathway that'll lead to ultimate success. Mrs. Stiles?
Good evening. As Mr. Burton said, there are 3 pathways that Princeton focuses on. The first one being those students who elect to go to college, the career of the workforce, and then military enlistment. So tonight we're going to focus on those students who choose their pathway of going to a 2- or 4-year college. In working with our high school counselors, they have several activities each month that they focus on with students to help prepare them for the college application process. So on this first slide, that lists those events that we had in September, focusing on our new schoolings program, Common App, FAFSA, the Senior Career Survey, in which we've had about roughly 300 kids complete so far, and about 58% of those students are indicating that they want to attend a 4-year college, and about 8% of those students are indicating that they want to attend a 2-year college. And then coming soon will be College Vine, which I'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide. In October, the first part, the credit checks got delayed just a little bit with the events a few weeks ago. Our counselors got a little backed up with going in and checking those seniors' credit checks. But the 3 areas I want to focus on that are new opportunities this year in October are the virtual tours for our Ivy League Plus schools. So the link that is listed, if the students click on that link, they can identify which state they might want to attend, they can identify which subject they might want to go into or which major, and then it will filter those colleges available based on what type of college they want to attend. So we have just recently posted that on Schoolings after discovering that new information. We will also be officially launching our College Vine resource, which is a newly approved resource where parents can sign up for sessions and learn more about FAFSA and the grant opportunities and the scholarship opportunities. So that launches and goes, it's actually live right now, but the official launch will be tomorrow, and there's the link that is associated with it along with the QR code. So if you scan the QR code, you can see the different opportunities and you can filter the counselors by interest. So if you need to learn about financial aid available, it will tell you which experts to go to learn more about financial aid. So it's accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they actually just recently hired 3 counselors that are bilingual and Spanish speaking, which I know will be very helpful for our population. And then the last piece that's new this year for the month of October, we are going to be doing an in-person college tour on October 18th, which is a day that school is not in session for students. We chose that day specifically because we didn't want to pull kids from instructional time. So it's new this year. We have about 12 students signed up for Xavier and Mount St. Joe. That will be one tour. I have 22 listed, but when I checked a little bit later today, 29 students are signed up for the NKU and Cincinnati State tour, and there'll be more tours coming later on this year. In the month of November, something new that the counselors are focusing on, and 208 students have already indicated that they are interested in this, are our college application days. So those 2 days right before Thanksgiving break, those students who need to work one-on-one with the counselor will be able to have that access, and they can kind of walk them through the college application process. The reason they're doing that in November is a lot of the scholarships that are awarded get awarded starting December 1st. So we really want to make sure that our students have every opportunity to get that college application in before that December 1st deadline so that they can have access to as many funds as possible. And then also in November, we're going to have the UC main campus and the Blue Ash campus college tour on November the 30th. And then starting second semester, that is when our students take the AccuPlacer assessment, and that is the assessment that the district provides for those students in grades 7 through 12 that are interested in College Credit Plus courses. The official testing date is January 13th, but we do continue to test students past that date through the end of January and sometimes into early February if they were absent on that day or have a late sign up. Sometimes that gets delayed a little bit more because we might have to order more tests if students sign up at the last minute. As of now, we do have our College Credit Plus parent meeting scheduled for February 2nd, but we are also looking to move that date to early January and do that as a virtual meeting so we can help make sure that parents are aware of the AccuPlacer assessment. And then also second semester, that's when our counselors will continue to provide one-on-one support for those students who have either indicated that they are interested in going to college or maybe were undecided, and then they'll reach back out to those students to see what their decisions are. We also have a variety, or the counselors also provide a variety of lunch and learn opportunities. So the college application support will continue, and those are the dates that are listed through January, and they do continue to add those as needed. For the communication, we do have a senior Google Classroom in which 301 students have currently signed up for and joined that classroom. We have the weekly emails, one-on-one signups, and then you can see the QR codes. Those are posted in every single classroom, so the students can just use that QR code to sign up for their counselor. The counselor gets that notification, and then they can call those students down. And that's for college, but that's also for anything. If the student just needs to meet with their counselor, they also have that opportunity to scan that QR code. We also have the principal all calls. This is where it also becomes very important that families update their final forms with their most updated phone number and emails so that those are going out to the most updated information and that those calls and messages can get out. We have the counseling website, afternoon and morning announcements, e-news, and school links. So as you can see, there's a variety of communication tools that our counselors have. However, we are always looking to improve. As technology changes, we look to add those different things and make those available for our students. And then the last two slides are just kind of examples of the different types of communication that the counselors use. The students just join that senior Google Classroom using the join code, similar to they would any other class, math, science, English, or social studies. And then that's just a snapshot on the right of 2 recent posts that they've had on that main dashboard, so they'll see that in their stream, and that just constantly gets updated with new information. And then on the left side, you can also see one of our counselors, Ms. Burrows, and the other counselors have this available as well. That join code is also listed in the signature page so that the students always know that that's available to sign up. And then they have links available in addition to the QR codes that are in the classroom for students to be able to sign up if they need to see their counselor in relation to college or anything else. And then the last slide is just also the district website. They try to make sure that they keep that updated on a regular basis. And then on the left-hand side, that's just an example email that went out through School Links this past week to kind of update students about College Fine. And that is all I have.
Libby, for the senior Google Classroom, how many seniors have signed up for that?
301.
So still working on the other kids to get them signed up, but
correct.
301 access all the time. The other thing, can you talk a little bit more about class links? Because the other day, I would always have to call a counselor. It was always such a big honor and very humbling when a senior would ask me to write a letter of recommendation. And it was always, as soon as I'd write the letter of recommendation, I'd send it, student would kind of look at it, see if I captured all their activities and so forth. But then a bead of sweat would hit me right here, and I'd realize that at some point I'm going to have to upload that into Naviance. And boy, convoluted, and counselors that work with that all the time, parents that work with that all the time, still struggle from time to time. Navigating it just was not, it's not user-friendly. I set up an appointment with our great counselor, Mrs. Grable, to be able to kind of unpack and help me upload it. And I logged in and did what we want all of our kids to do, right? Try to figure it out yourself. And within like a minute, I mean, it's so intuitive. And that, I tell you, is one of the biggest issues that we've had here, is that when you first go on as a student, as a parent, it is overwhelming. There's so much information there. It's so simplistic, and again, intuitive, that we feel like this is going to be a major communication tool for us. Is when you push it out there, it puts a to-do list right up top, it shoots an email. There's really zero excuse for our kids not to get the information, but it doesn't mean that we don't need to follow through. But do you want to add anything more about ClassLinks?
Well, first, it's SchoolLinks.
SchoolLinks, yeah.
ClassLink is our
ClassLinks here, something
single
different.
sign-on
SchoolLinks,
system.
yes,
I just didn't want to confuse anyone.
Thank you.
But SchoolLinks, it starts in the 6th grade, and so students will go on and they will complete career exploration activities that will then guide them towards any sort of pathway that they are interested in. And they take activities, they complete surveys every single year. So what they choose in 6th grade can absolutely change in 7th grade, 8th grade. It can change halfway through 8th grade. So they start in 6th grade to complete some of those exploration activities. And then that leads into their high school year where they can do their course planning and do online scheduling. And those decisions and those surveys that they take in their earlier years can kind of drive and help drive which classes they might be interested in taking when they enter high school, which will then be credit related and can guide them to the college application process, or if they're interested in the military, or if they're interested in going directly into the workforce. So they have that career component. So we also are working with Tanya Key so that she can get students connected with the local businesses for those students that are expressing interest in that area. The course planner is going to be huge. We're working on that. That's going to take several meetings to get everything uploaded. Students will be able to schedule their classes online, like Mr. Burton said. They get email notifications. So if there's one thing that I would really, really want to stress, it's teaching the students the skill of checking their email. Because with technology, whether it be Google Classroom, whether it be SchoolLinks, whether it be just something from a teacher, checking that email and getting in the habit of checking that email is going to be very, very important, and we also recognize that's a skill that we need to teach. And then, like Mr. Burton said, uploading reference or recommendation letters, transcripts, anything that's related to their future. It is one system, which I know was very, very important to the counselors, and in talking to Ms. Grable and all the other counselors that have been a part of this implementation process, they're just smiling ear to ear, because to have one system to be able to help students with this, it's going to help the parents, it's going to help the students, it's going to help the counselors and teachers, because they don't have to go to so many different platforms to try to get that work completed.
And then through this whole process of looking at SchoolLinks, what we found out was the enormous amount of time that we were doing for scheduling, that we were doing for other aspects of it, and we feel like when you have to do those things, and now all of a sudden you're going to have maybe a week and a half more, that'll allow more one-on-one conversations, that'll allow more small group work, it'll allow more time to come up with great ideas to be able to push stuff with. So really, I'm just kind of being very, very transparent here. The reality is we needed to move to some of these things earlier. We did. And I'm the leader of the district, so that's on me. But the reality is that there's a lot of deep dives that we've taken to provide some of these opportunities and technological tools, which every one of the kids in the district that we've talked to just about, they all have Instagram, they all have everything, and so how we communicate has to change. And now, we've done a really good job of it. You see postings all the time. In fact, I saw stuff on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I know there are announcements that we heard walking in the hallways, all about the FAFSA information and all of that. It could never replace the good old-fashioned, here's a letter, take it home to your parents, and the kid grabs it and takes it home to the parent, right? And then the parent is assuredly going to get the information. Well, we're no longer in the 1950s. So we move on, and these tools will help us significantly, and it'll be able to provide some additional time. Now, we're still working on a few areas. It's not perfect yet, never will be. But again, I really appreciate the entire team out here looking at it, and led by Mrs. Stiles, specifically secondary, really doing a very good job with these tools and being slow. We actually had meetings with the counselors last spring about SchoolLinks. They looked at, they're really excited to follow up this summer, and obviously the transition at the beginning of the school year.
I just want to thank you for this outstanding report. It shows that we're giving our students the tools they need to be successful, and that's just outstanding. The College Credit Plus, I mean, my first year on this board, I remember one of the graduates graduated from high school as a sophomore in college. And that was so impressive because I had never heard of the program before. So I'm so glad that we have tools like that and the other things that you shared with us tonight. My other question, if I may,
Oh, absolutely.
is it sounded like you said about 300 students are interested in the program so far?
There's 300 students have signed up who have joined the Google Classroom.
Okay.
So then we're looking at what we're doing now is we're doing the side-by-side comparison of here's all the students who have signed up, and then here's the entire list of students, and figuring out who those students are who haven't signed up. Some of the breakdown that we're working on are the students that are off campus at the Oaks program. So we're working diligently to catch up and make sure that every student is getting all of the information and has all of the access.
Now, you might not know this off the top of your head, but how many seniors are there?
There's about 440.
So we've got almost all of them.
We've got a good amount because we have about 100 students that are off-site at our Oaks programs right now.
Of course.
So there's roughly about 40 students that are in-house that we still need to make sure that we connect with to get signed up for our senior Google Classroom, and then we'll continue to push that information out and working with Mr. Lockhart to make sure that the students are connected to school links.
And my last question is, what do you do about situations where the student is from a family where no one's ever gone to college, and they mistakenly think college is not for them for financial reasons? Is that something you run into where, now I'm saying a trade is great, go to Scarlet Oaks, wonderful, but once you get that trade, you still might want to pursue college. How do you all educate students to understand that college is still doable for you in addition to your trade?
The two things that the counselors focus on right now, one of them, that is one of their lunch and learn opportunities. In its title, like first generation college students, so that they can make sure that they have that opportunity available. That's one of the reasons why we implemented the 2 college application days in early November. So any student that indicated they were interested in college, and the counselors even said this year, they're like, even if you're interested but maybe don't think you're going there right away, if you have any sort of interest at all, please select that you are interested in a 2 or 4 year college, because we want to make sure that you're getting all of the information. And then if the students don't attend that college application day, then that's when they start having those one-on-one conversations. So of the 58% that indicated they wanted to go to college, 208 of those students also indicated that they wanted to participate in the college application day. So they will go through that list of 208, and then they will reach out to those students who didn't check in that day, and that's where they will start having those one-on-one conversations to let that child know that college can be a reality.
So there's no rule or situation where everybody who's a senior must at least apply to college just to show that they can do it. No, there's nothing like that. You can't force people.
No, we don't want to force people, but we do have a follow-up survey in the spring, because that's also where we get the information to know what kind of scholarships have been awarded. So we will issue that survey again in the spring and then continue to follow up with students, because kids change their minds, and what they might not thought was a reality at one point, they now realize can be a reality now, and have talked to their friends, and will continue to provide those opportunities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm not being flippant. I know I'm considerably older than you are, but as I've listened to all of this, I wish I could go back in time and have had that. It would have taken me down a totally different road. So thank you for what you're doing for our kids.
Good.
I would just like to add one thing in conclusion. When we think about the concept of going to school, sometimes what we do is we say we make excuses for kids, and we don't intentionally do it to not have them dream or have stretch schools, but everybody does have stretch schools. We as counselors talk about what's a stretch school that if you could get in and the money was right, you could go to. Well, it'd be great to be able to say, hey, let's go to all the Ivy League schools, let's go to, you know, some other OAC schools in the state of Ohio, which are seen as great academic institutions, or schools, you know, further down the East Coast, Johns Hopkins and so forth. We can't get the kids there, which is one of the reasons why when Ms. Stiles and I were talking one day, like, let's try to have this really rich virtual option. So what I did is I looked at that site, went to my alma mater, and looked and did the tour. Now, obviously, I went there. Changed a little bit. Buildings are a little bit different now. But to get a feel for what the campus looks like, that was actually pretty good. Because I remember what it looked like, and so I was looking at from, trying to not be biased, but looking at, so when you're looking at Morrow Hall, like, they took it further back to be able to see that. And so it's not perfect, but I really appreciated being able to go on those virtual tours, and so kids that have that academic ability to go to an Ivy League school, there's no question, we'll talk about that. But I will tell you that it's hard-pressed to say to kids who love Cincinnati, who love this area, who want to stay at home, you go to University of Cincinnati, great institution, for free, and you can still see your friends, or else you can go halfway across the country, which you've never done perhaps, and you're not going to know anybody, and you may have to pay a little bit more, although the Ivy League schools now have been much better in terms of spending some of that crazy endowment money that they have. But the reality is that virtual tour is huge for kids, and so that'll be pushed out as a to-do item as well. But thank you very much.
Thank you, yeah.
What'd you say?
I think she has a question.
Is there
Oh,
a
yeah,
packet?
yeah, the packet's right here. You guys gonna get those
Okay, I was
packets,
gonna
yep.
say the same thing. I'm trying to write it down.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Next is the first reading update of Princeton policies, 1617, 2280, 2413, 2430, 2431, 3120.08, 3217, 4217, 5111, 5335, 5336, 5460.01, 6700, 7217, 7440.03, 8210, 8320, 8330, 8600, 7510. Mr. Burton.
You did a great job, yes. Those are all policies that go through our policy committee. Mr. Frick, anything outstanding? No.
Any questions? Okay. That was the first reading, so next is the treasurer's report.
3 quick hits for everyone tonight. The fiscal year 22 grants, as I mentioned, have been closed out and reported. We will see questions back from the state as they pick and choose which ones they're going to do their little audits on and ask for backup. Carryover for grants that allow carryover we should see that in the next few weeks. Plattenberg is the accounting firm that produces our annual financial statement, was on site last week, and they collect data and put together that lovely binder report that you'll receive after the first of the year. And the audit team will be next. We have to have the audit completed by 12/31, so we're looking forward to hearing from them. Forecast work is began last week, continues over the next several weeks. We'll start talking about that with the board at the work session on the 24th and ask for the board approval on that on November 7th. That meeting's a week early because of the Capitol Conference. That's what I have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
If not, Mr. Burton.
Thank you. I would like to start off talk about today is National Indigenous People Day, and you know, this is a big day for many Native Americans across the country. The Cherokee Nation really pushed very hard for this to actually be a day. You know, it's interesting. It's still not a national holiday, but many people have taken that. There's over 100 cities and 14 states, I think, that do recognize today, which also is Columbus Day as well. But so that's a beautiful day, and with that, you know, we had our Hispanic Heritage Festival last Saturday, a week ago Saturday, and it was unbelievable. I just like to publicly praise Anna Martinez for her hard work, and her right and left hand, Tanya Key and Tricia Roddy, for getting that done. But there were many, many people that helped. You know, something that people didn't really realize, you know, we had 68 of our students volunteering, which was amazing. We had, it was 5 hours, but it seemed like, or 6 hours, but, excuse me, 4 hours, I apologize. But it seemed like it was much more. They packed so much into that day, and it was amazing. We actually had a meeting today, talked specifically about what we could do perhaps differently to continue to grow that. And again, the feedback was amazing. You can still get your t-shirts. I feel like an infomercial tonight, but you can still get your t-shirts for those interested. You could call our board office and ask for Tricia Roddy, and we'll make sure we get you those. $20 for those shirts, great deal. Also, this month, as you know, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Last Friday, we had a beautiful pink out. It was great. Many of us have been affected by cancer in general, specifically breast cancer. And I'm just very, very proud of our school district and what we do on these different, whether it's days or months or whatever. But true recognition, we know, happens each and every day. So when you talk about something like recognizing today Indigenous people, it's not just today. We were talking about Hispanic Heritage History Month, which is September 15th through October 15th. It's not just that month. Black History Month is not just February. And so really excited about Women's History Month is not just March. So I love the fact that, man, we embrace this. We do. I mean, we are all about diversity, and I love it so much. Speaking about diversity, you'll see, you guys all should have received one of these for your purview, their quality profile, and that's going to go out. Hopefully, the process will start at the end of this week, but everybody, you look at that. There are some placeholders in here, so we know that some dates may move a little bit. Some pictures may move a little bit. The Board of Education would like to get a new picture of you tonight up on stage, so if you would please stay after, that'd be great. Just a reminder, State of the Schools is tomorrow right here on this very stage. Hopefully you guys will be able to attend. It starts at 5:30, goes to 6:30, and then we have a concert immediately following our choir for middle school. Please check them out. The homecoming weekend was, boy, what a great weekend. There were so many activities. That went on. The parade was amazing on Wednesday. We had Princeton through the decades, the very first time that perhaps many people saw any artifacts that we had. We had this beautiful Princeton Museum. Well, I should say, there's a lot of information we have in the Princeton Museum, but no one's seen it. So we brought it out. And so if you guys did not see it, you'll have an opportunity to see it later, because we're going to bring it out at different big events. So Festival of the Arts, for instance, we'll have it out there. We'll have it out there for some of our big concert weeks so that people can see it. But perhaps the best picture that we got all weekend long, I try to do my very best to take some artistic photos and post them on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. But the very best picture was as some band students and some football students were walking through, and they saw all this memorabilia. They were like, "What's that?" And there were like 6 or 8 kids huddled around the 60s decade looking at that. It was amazing to see that. there were our cheerleaders who saw an old cheerleader uniform. They're like, Mr. Burton, that's amazing. Can we get those? And so, but it's great. And Princeton's always this district that's almost bigger than life, especially when it comes to the history of the district. So I'm very proud that we were able to bring that out, and we will continue to bring that out at different events, and just encourage people to check out all the wonderful pictures. We're going to do a video on it and push that out as well. Speaking of homecoming and Princeton through the decades, we had our Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which was last Saturday. That was great. We had 8 individuals and 2 teams get in there. Girls track team in 1989 and water polo in 1981. So that was wonderful. And again, 8 individuals. We have a distinguished alumni event coming up right here on this stage. We're going to eat in the cafeteria. We're going to come to this stage and induct some wonderful people the 5th of November. So please make sure you circle that on your calendar, and we'll also provide additional information soon about that. Veterans Day concert, you know, that's one of the big moments for us in this district as we celebrate the veterans. I know Mr. Lockhart's a veteran, Mr. Simon's a veteran. Probably everybody here knows somebody who is a veteran, and we certainly appreciate their selfless sacrifice and service. So that'll be here. And Tricia, is that at 7 o'clock for sure? 7 o'clock on the 9th. So that's always such a beautiful, beautiful day. I want to make sure I hit everything. That concludes my report. Thank you.
I have one more thing, if I could.
Go ahead.
Dr. Mary Phillips, she got recognized last night at the I Hear Music Incorporated annual gala. So congratulations to Dr. Phillips.
Anything else?
I'd like to just say that Great Oaks will be having their meeting this week at Laurel Oaks, if anyone's interested in seeing the newly opened Laurel Oaks. If you really want to drive that far, it's in Wilmington, Ohio. I will be there on behalf of all of us, but if you are interested in seeing Laurel Oaks, our meeting is Wednesday evening at 7:30, and then the Southwest Ohio has their conference. Again, another good drive in Greene County on Thursday night. So, fortunately, same night as Blink.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I knew, I was like, there's one more thing.
One more
But wait,
thing.
there's more. So the Blink Parade will be happening the same night as Mary said, which is great for us, but it's also unfortunate because we would love to go, not only support you, Mary, because you'll be doing some speaking there as well, and Jody Kessler being recognized there. So thanks for holding down the whole event,
I'll
Mary.
hold it down for everyone. No,
Yeah.
no worries.
So the Blink
But I'd
event, for
rather go
those,
to Blink.
for those people that are nervously waiting to see our beautiful Pride of Princeton Marching Band, early on the parade, you're going to wait. Middle of the parade, you're going to wait. We're going to be the last band, the last event, if you will, and we actually will be performing after as well. So this is a big, big moment for us. Again, the parade runs to about 9:15, but rumor has there may be a surprise or two at the end that could be pretty awesome. So I'm anticipating a late night that night.
And if we get done early in Greene County, then I'll come on downtown.
Thank you, thank you.
That's a long drive.
I just want to piggyback on that. I just want to say thanks to Princeton for supporting the band going down to Blink. I know, I mean, it's just a huge undertaking to get all those kids, all their uniforms, all their instruments, get them fed, keep them safe, and their families and everything. And I just really am thankful for Princeton. Thank you so much.
Take lots of pictures, everyone, and videos.
Next is executive session. I move we go into executive session to discuss under sections 121.22 G1, the employment of a public employee of the Ohio Revised Code.
That's a question. Is there something we need to go into executive session for?
There's nothing from me.
Oh, maybe you have something.
No, it had on there about the employees, so I thought maybe,
Because there may have been something that came up, so we're not going
Just in case.
so we're not?
to correct.
Okay, so I'll take that back.
I think we just need a motion.
Well,
to
the
adjourn,
motion
that's it.
failed for lack of a.
Okay, the motion failed. Story of
You
my
didn't get
life.
a second on that. is what I'm
Story of
trying
my
to say.
life. Okay, then I'll move that we adjourn.
A second.
Thank you, because I didn't want to stay all night.
Mrs. Kessler? Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Board members, if we could
We need to get a picture of you guys.
take a picture with the presentations.